third is framing. And framing is the power to influence how issues and events are interpreted. And this is, probably more than anything else, the strategic goal in American politics. There's a constant battle to frame an issue to affect public perception. Whose frame sticks often suggests who will win that battle. So when we're talking about framing, we're talking about the way that an issue is being talked about, the words that are being used, the terminology that's being applied to a particular issue or particular event. And this is a constant political battle, because if you can control the terminology that's being used, then ultimately you're going to be in the driver's seat of determining how that debate is decided at the end. And so the media and the media's focus on or use of particular frames or creation of certain frames is really important in this process. A great example is what we see today. The Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, or often referred to as the Affordable Care Act, is something that has been in the news for years, but almost everyone refers to this as Obamacare. Obamacare was a negative frame that was created about the Affordable Care Act by opponents of the Affordable Care Act, most notably the Republican Party, but was picked up by media outlets and eventually was even used by Democrats and supporters of it. In my opinion, this was a framing battle that Obama and Democrats really missed out on. They missed out on a great opportunity to take credit for and take the name for something that they really supported. Obamacare doesn't sound bad as a name, but ultimately if it's attributed to the negative effects and the negative consequences that opponents of the Affordable Care Act believed, then ultimately it has a negative connotation. And the fact that today, and there have been some funny looks at this on Leno and other late night shows, the fact that today there are people that don't understand that the Affordable Care Act and Obamacare are actually the same thing is a real problem for those supporters of Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act, depending on which frame you are going to be using. Another brilliant example of framing is what was the signature education legislation passed by George W. Bush. It was and is referred to as No Child Left Behind, which is a brilliant frame. By definition, if you oppose this program from the very outset, well, you support leaving kids behind. That's not something that is a winnable position to have if you're trying to win this particular debate, even if there are flaws in No Child Left Behind. The framing of it, the naming of it, the way it's used, and the way it's talked about is really very important. Finally is priming. Priming essentially prepares the public to take a particular view. So while framing is really trying to debate and discuss how an issue is interpreted while it's happening, priming is starting that process before it actually takes place. So the idea here is that priming is really the process in which the media attends to some issues and not to others, altering really how people feel about something before they really have created their own idea about it. It alters the standards by which people evaluate different issues as well as individuals. And by far the best example that I've ever seen of this was something that Jon Stewart looked at on The Daily Show. We're going to look at that in 1 second. What he was talking about, or what he examined here, took place in August 2011 during what they call the Iowa straw poll, which is the first opportunity before the primaries, before the caucuses, the first opportunity for Iowans to sort of indicate who might be who they might be interested in the presidential contest. In this case, it was looking for the Republican challenger to Barack Obama, and the way that the media covered this and focused on certain people and most importantly left out one was a really important priming effect. What's important here is that priming is something that usually is invisible. It's something that most people don't see. It's something that affects us all the time without really thinking about what the media does and does not focus on. Jon Stewart does an amazing job of making that very visible, and it's something that we should all be aware of when we're thinking about and watching and scrutinizing over political media in the future.